So 2023 is pretty much an end. I have been wanting to do this video, and I did do a top 25 albums of the year, but basically the best albums. But I have actually deleted it. I wasn't really satisfied with it, so this is the round two. I'm gonna make this video a bit shorter. I'm not gonna spend too much time talking about it, but just a heads up: the last two reviews are the health review and Atreyu, which are probably uploaded before this comes out. I have not had any schedule for it. I've just been kind of doing what I've been doing, especially since I've been sick, and as of right now I'm on the mend, but I'm still feeling a bit iffy, so yeah, there's going to be quite a bit of editing just in case I'm yawning a lot, because I've been struggling in terms of sleep and just, yeah, I've been feeling drained constantly. But let's go through the top 25 albums of the year, and I'm also going to be talking about just a little album of the year thing for my previous entries from 2017 onwards, because I thought, why not? Let's kind of add a little bit more to the end. But I was going to put the honourable mentions before number 2, but I decided I'll just go for the honourable mentions now, because the way it's written, and I'm just kind of like struggling to get my thoughts and collect them as well as I want to. I want to do this video when I was better, but because Christmas is all pretty much coming, less than 2 weeks now, I want to make sure everything's kind of fine. I want to make sure everything's focused on IRL, so this is pretty much my best shot at recording this. So the honorable mentions for the best album of the year is Empire State Bastards, Rivers of Heresy, Cattle Decapitation, Terrorsight, Silosis, A Sign of Things to Come, Graphic Nature, and Mind Waiting to Die, Squid Pisser, My Tadpole's Legion, Shame, Food for Worms, Riverside, ID Entity, Insomnium, Ano 1696, Green Lung, This Heathen Land, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, Petro-Dragonic Apocalypse, or Dawn of Eternal Night, and Annihilation of Planet Earth, and the Beginning of Merciless Damnation. That is my honorable mentions, songs, or pretty much albums that didn't get into my top 25, but had a pretty good shot. So yeah, let's go into the countdown. Let's go from 25 all the way down to 1. Number 25, we have Narrowhead, Moments of Clarity. When it comes to the shoegaze grunge band, they have a good blend of alt metal as well to the mix, and I think it works great. The first half you get more of the shoegaze elements focused on a lot more, and then more of the grunge alt metal elements focus on the second half. I think the idea that they have to kind of, the way that it's all mixed here is great. I didn't know what to expect going into my first Narrowhead album, but this one is great, and I'm happy that I managed to catch this one. It's pretty good. Number 24, we have Enter Shikari, A Kiss for the Whole World. I was not expecting this one to be in my top 25, but maybe an honorable mention, but it's pretty good. I actually enjoyed this album, and it's one of Enter Shikari's best efforts in such a long time, or at least since the Minesweep. I know they're going for a bit more of a softer direction for the past 3 records, but there's a little bit more of that heavier energy being built up, and you can definitely tell it with tracks like Please Set Me on Fire and It Hurts, the first 2 singles of the record that just kind of give you this 1-2 punch of just this energy that we kind of missed from the band. Like, not saying that the previous albums have been bad, but A Kiss for the Whole World is one of the best things we've had from the band in a while, so yeah, I think it's kind of deserves to be in the top 25. Number 23, we have Dying Wish, Symptoms of Survival. This is a great album, a metalcore introduction for me. I've never listened to this artist, and I think this band is great. The elements are fantastic, the uncleans are amazing, but the cleans that catch you towards the end are a lovely addition that I really enjoy. I definitely like this album. Haken, Fauna. This one is great. I quite enjoyed the ideas they had in this one. I think the writing was a little weird in my opinion. It kind of felt a little too far from what fans want, but I also appreciate some of the ideas they bring to the table here. To me, Fauna is probably one of the better records we've had from the band in quite some time, and I'm going to take it because there's still some great tracks. Elephants Never Forget is one of probably the most Haken sounding tracks we've ever had from the band. It's literally top tier. There's a lot of great stuff on this one, so that's why I put it in 22. 21, we have Camelot, The Awakening. This is one of Camelot's weakest albums in my opinion, at least with the new lead singer, but the new lead singer's vocals is also the highlight that really excels this one to be where it is. Just some amazing refrains, some amazing vocal passages, and just some great instrumentation throughout. This feels like a lighter version of the Shadow Theory, but at the same time I like where it's going. The last few tracks I think are really where the album picks up. It's kind of an interesting ride, but I like it. I think Camelot put out a good album this year. Number 20 we have Foo Fighters, but here we are. This album is great. One of Foo Fighters' best records to date. I really enjoy this one. I think Concrete Gold was kind of it was a great album in my opinion. It's still one of my favourites, but it had some weak tracks that kind of dragged it down, especially with some weird mixing choices. And Medicine at Midnight was not really that many people's cup of tea, going for a lot more of a poppy rock direction. But the band is bringing back the post-grunge sound that we know and love. There's some old elements blending in with new, and the overall emotional impact of this album is just incredible. I think this is some of the best ideas Foo Fighters have had, but it's also unfortunate at the same time that during the circumstances of the record, but it's still a really good Foo Fighters album. Definitely a great one. Number 19, we have the new one by Soen, Memorial. This one is good. I like the ideas they bring into it. It does feel a little bit more accessible to, I guess, a wider audience. It kind of has it has more of a mainstream appeal, but I still enjoy the direction this one takes. I think you got some pretty good instrumentation, and vocally there's just some great ideas going into this one. It's nothing crazy, but I think it belonged in the 25 just because of how clean it sounds. Number 18 we have Chelsea Grin, Suffer in Heaven. This is a deathcore band that I forgot to review, so I put it in my albums I missed video, and I'm happy I went into the thing again because this definitely gave me just a lot of adrenaline. And I think the fact that they throw you just different punches every time, there's just so many different ideas that they want to play with, such as whether that's a guitar solo, just some really fun breakdowns, or just some other ideas they want to play with. They do a really good job, and I think for Chelsea Grin this is honestly a really big highlight. This is such a great record. Quite liked it. Number 17 we have Wargasm by Venom. Yeah, this one is very unique. This one is probably one of the most unique sounding albums, but in terms of the overall aesthetic, I don't think it's quite as good as the albums above it, but I still think it deserves to be on the list nonetheless. It throws a lot of surprises. The Fred Durst feature was really interesting, and I think every single song's great. There's just ideas that they play with that just work incredibly. I like the digital hard punk sound they go for. It's quite refreshing, honestly, to see, but yeah, pretty good. Number 16 we have Avatar Dance Devil Dance. I didn't like the album at first, then it grew on me a lot more, and now I really like it. It's a strong album. I think the songs that just easily pull me in for some of the best stuff is The Dirt I'm Buried In, Train, the duet with Hailstorm as well is a really good one. There's just loads of good tracks on this one, and Chimp Mosh Pit is one that I disliked, but my appreciation on that one definitely grew with time. It's a fun album and definitely a step up from their previous entry. So yeah, I'll take that. That's pretty good. Number 15 we have The Ocean Holocene. This is probably one of the best albums, or if not the best album on the ones I missed, and I'm happy that this one is here because when it comes to prog metal, there's been some good releases, but I've not really been as interested in the real big stuff that's been happening. I remember I was hyped for Periphery, and that didn't really happen. I just didn't really vibe with it, but The Ocean was one that kind of flew under the radar for me, but I went into it and I really enjoyed it. This is definitely a really fun album. There's just loads of surprises that kind of throw you in towards the middle. The uncleans just hit you like a truck. The instrumentation is just beautifully crafted. Everything just kind of rewards the patience going into it. It's a really fun album. Number 14 we have In Flames Forgone. This album was just great. I enjoyed the direction they've been taking it. I feel like this is kind of a step back into the direction that fans quite missed. I think with Siren Charms and Either Mask, there's been just kind of some iffy ideas they wanted to push with it, but they're bringing back more of the heavy to it, while the electronic production is still part of their sound, and I think this is going to be a thing we'll be seeing for a long time. If Joe Rickard is going to be mixing and mastering these records, I still don't think they're too bad nonetheless. I feel like the writing is probably the weakest point of this album, but the strengths on this one definitely make it worth it. It's a fun record that just going into it, if you're just literally going in just because, oh, you want to try a melodic heavy metal album, then I recommend this one. It's a pretty good album. Number 13, we have Beartooth The Surface. So Caleb Momo from Beartooth pretty much did a lot of this. I mean, he's done the mixing, the mastering, producing, he's also lead singer, the writing. The guy is honestly a one-man band machine, and he's definitely got a lot of talent to write what is one of the most, I guess, influential Beartooth albums. A lot of people have been digging this, and I can see why, honestly. While there are some elements I'm not quite big on, I feel like Beartooth going for something that's more mainstream and radio friendly, at the same time kind of keeping the edge of Beartooth, is what makes this one work. If it wasn't just for the fact that it was poppy, if it wasn't just because it was a beat album and it was just had that poppy style, I can see people get bored, but I feel like the way to kind of combine the two layers just gives it a lot more of a better impression of just having that. Not only is it upbeat, not only is the band at a really good position right now, but also the sound just kind of gives you this uplifting feel. Plus the mainstream appeal definitely kind of helps reach newer audiences as well. I feel like new audiences may not like what Beartooth have had to offer, so this is kind of what they're going for. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good album. I like this one quite a lot. There's a van outside. Number 12, As Everything Unfolds, Ultraviolet. Yep, this one's great. As Everything Unfolds is honestly just an underrated gem. I saw them play the 5 singles off this record, supporting Enter Shikari earlier this year, and they were great, honestly. A Kiss for the Whole World tour was fantastic, and I think As Everything Unfolds really pulled me in from just, oh, we're a support band, to me listening to their discography constantly, and I love how this new album sounds. Ultraviolet takes the softer palette of the first record, but really solidifies the sound that they wanted to craft, and Within Here Lies the Other is a good record, and I like the heavier aspect, but I feel like the melodic elements is what really shines on this one. There's one less track because one's more of an interlude than there is on the debut, but for a sequel, or at least a sophomore album, it's a really good step, and I like this one a lot. So they did a good job with it. Number 11, we have Of Mice and Men, Tether. This one may be one of my more controversial picks, but I really enjoy it. I think Of Mice and Men, they had just been trying to do something different, and while this to me just kind of at the same time isn't as unique, I feel like the overall step into this very electronic alt metal sound they want to go for is good. I know the band normally dabbles in metalcore, but the elements of that is kind of absent, I guess. I know a lot of people who went into this album probably were a bit more disappointed that you didn't get an album at least like Echo, which a lot of the fans preferred, and to me, from what I can see, Echo is the stronger album. Tether just kind of feels like the weaker sequel, but at the same time, I think the softer songs are a really nice, refreshing change of pace. When you have tracks like Integration, Shiver, or Tether, they're kind of just apart from the chaotic tracks like Castaway or Warpaint or Eternal Pessimist. There's a lot of good ideas going into this one. I don't think it's a bad album at all. I honestly would say the opposite. Now we're diving into the top 10. This is pretty much the best stuff of the year, stuff that I think is just overall a lot of fun to go into every single time. These albums are strong and just fantastic. So let's start off with number 10, which is Buried Tomorrow, The Seventh Son. Buried Tomorrow, it kind of been a little bit under the radar for a lot of people this year, and I think this album definitely is a really good one. I love the energy, it's intense, the vibe of it is great, and I feel like every song just hits hard. The reason that it's only a number 10 though is because when it comes to a lot more of the heavier post-hardcore, when it comes to a lot of the more metalcore bands, I find this one to not be quite as good as some of the others on this list, but at the same time, I still think it's a great album nonetheless, one that I definitely recommend. Number 9, Tesseract, War of Being. I wanted to put this one up higher, but I just felt like I connected a little bit more with the albums above this one. Still, Tesseract releasing a behemoth of a record is no doubt about that. This album is one of their best in quite some time. A lot more of the uncleans appear, and I think they just blend nicely into the elements here. There's just some really good instrumentation as well. They just go for some really fun ideas, and that's what makes this Tesseract album as good as it is. It's really good. Number 8, Skindred, Smile. I really enjoyed this one, and I was really hoping it got to the UK number 1, because that probably would have easily made it my favourite album of the year that managed to get it, but unfortunately it got beaten out to, yeah, I'm not even going to say it because I just don't like the guy, but yeah, Skindred still releasing Smile is amazing. It's just such a upbeat, positive album, and it's honestly one of the better releases they've had as well. I'm not saying that Skindred ever had a bad album, because every Skindred album's been a lot of fun, but this is probably one of the most fun-filled albums from them. I love how diverse the songs are. It's a really good record. Number 7, The Raven Age, Blood Omen. This one was one of my first Raven Age albums that I really, really enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to seeing where they go from here. This is the step and the album direction I think they should continue pursuing, and I'm really looking forward to where the future of the band holds. But as of where it is, this is fantastic, and I honestly am looking forward to if they're going to go heavy or if they're going to be doing something similar. I don't know, but I'm hyped. Number 6, Polaris, Fatalism. It's such a shame that this one got knocked out of the top 5, because trust me, it was in the top 5 for a while. But yeah, sometimes it do be like that. I really enjoyed this Polaris album. I think Fatalism is probably one of their strongest records, probably is their strongest record. I like the Mortal Core and the Death We Seek, but I really enjoy the instrumentation, the cleans and uncleans, and how everything's perfectly balanced, beautifully mixed, and well crafted onto this record. It's a really fun metalcore album, and definitely a highlight for me. And here we are. We're entering the top 5 albums of the year. This is where the shit goes down. This is the stuff that I've really been looking forward to. And anything in the top 10, while I did enjoy it, the top 5, there's just, to me, it's kind of on a new tier. That's literally how I feel about it. So we're going to start off with number 5, Invent Animate, Heavener. Yep, this is my number 5 pick because I just love how big the production is. I love the overall aesthetic of the record. It feels heavy. It sounds really crisp, and I really enjoy the instrumentation and just how heavy some of the riffs can get. I enjoy the softer elements as well, and I think the lyrics are some of the most relatable from throughout this whole year. This one focuses on a mixture of stuff like relationships to grieving from something that happened like 10 years ago. Basically, like grieving from something that, while yes, it happened a while ago, it can still affect you now. And I think this is a very important album. It kind of reminds me as like a mental positivity boost, and even if you're not going into it just for that relatability to really see the the lead singer was feeling, you're still going to get a lot of like adrenaline just from how insane this record is. There's not a dull moment. This album is really good, and it deserves to be in the number 5. Number 4, Sleep Token, Take Me Back to Eden. I mentioned Of Mice and Men being my 11th favourite album of the year. Might have been a bit controversial, but here we are. Sleep Token. Quite a controversial pick for some, probably an understandable pick for others. Now, it's not my favourite album of the year, but it was really close. I think the problem with this record is the weaker tracks. I don't care about the genre fusing, because that's what I like about it. If they want to do tracks like Do You Wish That You Loved Me and blend with pop, then that's fine, but the overall aesthetic I enjoy of Sleep Token is the lore they're building, is how every song is so distinctive from each other. So the fact that they're making 12 tracks every album and none of them sound the same is what I'm enjoying about the band. Not to mention, this one has the most amount of bangers out of any record of theirs. I mean, The Summoning, Vor, Take Me Back to Eden, Ascensionism, The Apparition, Granite, Chokehold. I mean, I can go on, there's so many good songs on this one, and the best songs, like I mentioned the first four, are just phenomenal, and they just hold up really nicely. This album has so many good surprises that the weaker tracks, like Are You Really Okay and Do You Wish You Loved Me, just make it worth it. They just pretty much push these songs to being even better than before. It's probably the only album on this list where I'm not a big fan of all the songs, but there's so many songs that I really enjoy that it just kind of numbs out the weaker stuff. So this is my number 4 pick. In the top 3, number 3, I have Katatonia, Sky Void of Stars. For 9 months to almost 11 months, this was holding on for my album of the year, and it got knocked down, which is unfortunate, but I really enjoyed this one nonetheless. Start of January, or almost the end of January, but start of the year, we just get one of Katatonia's best bangers in a long time. Like, I'm not a big fan of City Burials, The Fall of Hearts, and I even consider Dead End Kings not as intriguing to me as some of their earlier stuff, like The Great Cold Distance or Last Fair Deal Gone Down, but this is a nice, not return to form, but a nice position to be in. They've got some of the best ideas they've had in a while. Every track is just amazing, and it just one by one, it just goes through just so many intricate moments that just make it stand out nicely. It's a really good album that has no faults to it. Even the bonus song that's a Muse tribute is a lovely addition. This album is great. Number 2, this one was my album of the year, but at the last minute I have reconsidered my 4 and recollected to change it, unprocessed, and everything in between. This was my favourite, but going back into it, I enjoy how unique this one is. It's very progressive. I love the gent in this, but I decided to put this one as number 2 because while I enjoy that, I feel like number 1 just had the more enjoyable songs, and the atmosphere just worked a little bit more. This one's still insane though. The heavy mixing to just some rapid fire pace moments, especially with the last 2 tracks, to just some really interesting breakdowns. It's a very creative album that just uses the inspiration of Polyphia, even getting Polyphia on board for one track to just push out some of the heaviest stuff they've ever done is insane. Unprocessed definitely were incredible, but my number 1 album of the year, the one that I think tops everything, is Silent Planet Super Bloom. Super Bloom is phenomenal, and what an album to follow with Iridescent. Iridescent is amazing, and it is honestly one of my favourite albums from 2021, but 2023 has my favourite album from them. Super Bloom just literally adapts more to the space sort of aesthetic, but going into just some very intricate, heavy moments. Every song is so distinctive, plays with so many different ideas, and has some of the best instrumentation. I cannot tell you how many times I found myself enjoying Collider, how many times I've found myself enjoying Euphoria, and going back into it, it's great. The ranking I gave for the tracks, I might change. I honestly feel like I probably would raise them, to be honest. There's so many moments I really enjoy that I kind of, like, I guess in a way, doubted as much, because even Nexus, one of my more forgettable tracks on the album, is really good, and even the tracks I put on the lower end is phenomenal as well. So that pretty much wraps up the top 25 albums of the year. Before I finish this video, I'm just going to quickly go through other album of the years, because we have Silent Planet joining as a 2023 album of the year for me. I just thought it'd be kind of a little cool thing to do, considering I've been listening to the music I have starting 2017. So 2017 was Starset Vessels for album of the year, 2018 was Palisades, Erase the Pain, 2019 was Corn the Nothing, 2020 was Red Declaration, 2021 was Vola Witness, 2022 was Motionless in White, Scoring the End of the World. Some pretty fun releases, and I wouldn't change them. I still think for the year those are probably the best stuff that I actually listened to. Also go into the fact that I'm not counting anything I listened to years later back into that year, because I want to do it from a fresh experience. So that's pretty much it. Merry Christmas everyone. I have got a top 25 worst video coming, but it might come out a little bit later than this one because there's going to be a lot going on. My weekend is literally going to see Sleep Token, the Wembley gig, and there's also Christmas as well, so it's going to be busy, but I'll try and see what I can get. So Merry Christmas everyone, and yeah, some uploads and left, and that's it. So that's it for the year. Merry Christmas.